You dirty. Yes, you are.
This is the story of Wisp, a kitten so small she could fit in the palm of a hand, yet somehow carried a voice big enough to fill an entire room.
It's not time. No.
From the very beginning, she made herself known. I could sit right in front of her, trying to soothe her gently, and she would cry as if I had wronged her in some terrible way. The moment my hand stopped moving, even for a second, the complaints would start again loud, insistent, impossible to ignore.
Let's go. Okay, let's go.
Wisp came into my life without warning. A group of Persian cats had been abandoned in my neighborhood, and people were doing their best to help. One of them was believed to be a neutered male, but that turned out to be wrong. Before anyone had time to prepare, there was suddenly a tiny kitten in the world, one no one had expected.
Get this sushi. Oh.
I took in the mother, and when Wisp was born, it was immediately clear she was fragile. She was so small, so delicate, and she couldn't latch on to nurse. In those first hours, everything felt uncertain. With kittens, that tiny bottle feeding can go either way, and there's always that quiet fear they might not make it. That night, I barely slept. I remember glancing at the clock and realizing it was nearly 8 in the morning. I had stayed up the entire time watching her closely, checking again and again to make sure she was still breathing. I would lean in and whisper softly, asking if she was okay, even though I knew she couldn't answer. I just needed to say it out loud. And then, something changed.
Good night. Can you tell me good night?
On her very first day, she figured out the bottle. Once she understood that it meant food, she became completely focused, determined. She developed what felt like a built-in schedule, and she made sure I followed it. If I was even a few minutes late, she would let me know loudly. Her voice was never random. It was purposeful, timed. If I fell behind, she protested until things were made right.
Ooh. Who's that?
She has always been vocal. If I sit and talk to her, she talks back. She looks directly at me like she understands every word, then answers in her own tiny sounds. She knows her name. She recognizes certain words. When I say them, her ears flick, her eyes sharpen, and she reacts.
What? Oh my.
Living with her feels less like having a pet and more like sharing space with a tiny, opinionated roommate who truly believes she's in charge. She isn't what most people would call a perfect-looking kitten. There's a slight scruffiness to her, something a little uneven that makes you pause for a moment, but that's part of her charm. There's something bold in her expression, something that tells you she's not gonna be overlooked.
You love this? Okay, ready?
Early on, I could already tell she had a strong personality. Because she was so weak at the start, she didn't get to move freely. She spent her earliest days confined, just trying to survive. So when she finally grew stronger, it was like watching her discover the world and her own body for the very first time.
Do a snack? Do you spin? Do you spin? Good job!
She would run, fast and determined, and then suddenly lose control and tumble over. But she never hesitated, never seemed embarrassed. She would pop right back up and keep going, as if falling was just part of the process. And in a way, it was.
She's doing her dance! Do the dance!
As her strength returned, everything about her grew. Her appetite increased, her energy surged. She went from a fragile baby in an incubator to a kitten who zooms across the room, demanding attention and making sure she gets it. The crying never disappeared, but it changed. It was no longer the desperate sound of a struggling kitten. It became something else. Something dramatic, almost theatrical. She is very particular about affection. If I stop petting her, she stares at me and immediately begins to complain. I tell her I can't hold her all the time, but she doesn't accept that answer. Not even a little.
Are you ready? Yeah, we're gonna go to the vet. With Pita.
And yet, when she feels unsure, when something isn't quite right, she comes straight to me. She rubs against my legs, asking quietly for comfort. In those moments, she softens. The noise fades. And what's left is trust. Deep, genuine trust. There are days when I can't get much done because she insists on being part of everything. If I sit down, she climbs into my lap. If I move to another room, she follows close behind. Sometimes I turn around and she's already there, like a tiny shadow I never noticed forming.
Thank you. Oh. Thank you. Okay.
And sometimes I stop and think about how different things almost were. There was a time not so long ago when I wasn't sure she would survive the night. Now, she scolds me if I'm 5 minutes late with her food and walks around like she owns the place. Wisp carries a huge personality inside a very small body. She is loud, demanding, dramatic, and incredibly affectionate. She went from a kitten too weak to nurse to a confident little cat who isn't afraid to tell you exactly what she wants. And honestly, every time she yells at me from across the room, I can't help but smile.
What? Wispy. What? Hey, stinky girl.
She makes life noisier, a little more chaotic, but also brighter in ways I didn't expect. I'm grateful for every complaint, every dramatic cry, every moment she insists on being heard, because it means she's here, alive, strong, thriving. And if this story meant something to you, take a moment to share it, leave a comment, or follow along for more stories like Wisp. And if you're ever thinking about adopting an animal, remember this. Sometimes the smallest, most fragile lives need the most care. But in return, they give you something truly special. Not just companionship, but a story you'll carry with you forever.
Did you find the treats? Things you're not supposed to have? You broke into the treats? Naughty.